Happy Monday morning. A week and a day away from the November 5th general election. Good morning. We will be tackling some stuff to know about the election. Do that later on this week. Of course, early voting underway and a lot at stake. Not just, of course, who's at the top of the ticket, but also we've got several referenda that are non-binding in Illinois. We'll talk about those and a few other things happening across the state. We'll do that tomorrow. But today, with Illinois in Focus Daily, I'm Greg Bishop. Good morning. We're going to tackle the issue of carbon sequestration and a variety of groups holding a briefing for congressional staffers last week, dealing with their concerns over carbon sequestration and the ADM plan. Finance issues. Last week, of course, a lot of people saw the citizens addressing the council, where you heard a lot of people say, go red. So that took a lot of attention. But the Chicago City Council questions about, so we'll tackle that as well. But up next, we've got to get to the latest in the Madigan corruption case, which is ongoing. They had Friday off, but they're back at it this morning. They'll obviously hear a lot more testimony, but they released a good amount of audio last week of undercover recordings that were done of the co-defendants, Mike McLean and former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. So we'll get to that next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning as we break down things that you need to know to get your day started here in the land of Lincoln. Former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan and co-defendant Mike McLean face jurors again today in what's expected to be an 11-week-long trial. And they got started last week with witness testimony, and that included former state representatives. Today, what kinds of wiretap recordings we'll get, I guess we'll see, but pretty fascinating to benefit himself and others of his associates by using his public office. A lot of undercover recordings were released last week as part of the trial, and let's go ahead and get into some of this. All right, so we've got some transcripts, and I've got some audio recordings to kind of spell this out. So here we go. We've got transcripts from federal prosecutors that show a phone call between Mike McLean and Richard Luft, where they discuss, well, what McLean is ultimately up to in his dealings.
And Madigan, because I'm retired, thinks I can do more assignments.
You know what? When you told me you retired, and when I was getting prepared to call you, I thought there isn't any way. You got to be involved in that somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
So obviously, McLean is talking about how he's doing assignments for Madigan, and the wiretaps continued from there with a variety of others, including McLean, Paul Schroeder, and Michael Baker. This is back in, I'm mispronouncing those names for sure, but this is back in May of 2018, where you.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good. What's up?
Yeah, just I got up to Chicago to have lunch with somebody and had the lunch, and now I'm going through my assignments.
Oh no, he'll never leave you alone. Is my new thought.
Again, his assignments from who, as he's said before, his friend Mike Madigan, the former Illinois House Speaker. Here's another phone call that deals with Mike McLean and Mike Madigan. Dan, let's hear it.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Speaker, how are you?
I'm okay. It's pretty crazy around here. Will is going to call you if he hasn't already.
Okay.
On one thing. And then there's a message here from Sam Panyanovich to me. Are you in a position to advise Mr. Panyanovich just to stay away from me?
Yes.
How would you handle that?
I just say, Sam, the optics of Joe Barrios around the Capitol.
Yeah.
Right. You just can't do it.
Okay. Thanks.
I will. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
And then
hey, you made
another
request
conversation.
For either you or you and Joe to go see the speaker. And so I want to tell you that there's a feeding frenzy on this guy right now.
Okay.
Because of Kelly Cassidy and everything, and the optics just aren't good for him. That's why he met you at Cousineau's office the other day.
I got you.
So you wouldn't be either Joe or Joe's quote unquote buddy and agent aren't seen coming in and out of the office. So
yeah, I understand. Let me shut the door here and talk to you.
Okay.
So again, you can ask to partake in, to basically urge people not to meet at Madigan's office or to do certain things. A little bit later on, we'll hear them wanting to lower the boom on former State Rep Lou Lang. But here's a conversation from June 27th, 2018 between McLean and Lynn Carner, and let's hear some of that.
Spinach with egg drops.
So I hit up the...
that's not right. It's a conversation that Madigan had with his wife about soup. I'm not sure what that was about. Here's the conversation between Michael McLean and Lynn Carner.
But if you'll tell me what your impression was of the meetings, right?
He understands not only was it not a hostile call, that it's a helpful call.
Right.
He very much appreciates it. He's relying on me for a number of things right now.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's just like the speaker relies on me and on a whole bunch of things.
That's exactly how he, when he told me about the message and all that sort of, actually, he was out of town last weekend, and we were together late Monday, so, yeah, so.
So again, the messages that are being sent by McLean to others as an agent for Madigan. Here is another wiretap call that federal prosecutors released between McLean and Craig Willert about some issues.
I get assigned, and I do the assignment, and then I carry the message. That's all.
No, I know, and big picture really is.
And that's a pretty interesting revelation there about how they need to get capital for the boss.
All I do is I get assigned, and I do the assignment, and then I carry the message. That's all.
No, I know, and big picture really is, once we should be building capital for the boss, not the other way around. So.
Again, really fascinating, some of these conversations and how people respond to, assignments McLean's carrying out and their understanding of what these assignments ultimately are. Here's another conversation that was captured between former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan and Mike McLean. Again, conversations via wiretap from federal agents. Here is some of this conversation between McLean and Madigan.
District. So Natalie has decided that she doesn't want to do any negative advertising. And this has been a long process. At the very beginning, why she agreed to do negative advertising, and then she's taken us through a process where we've done refinements on what it might be, and this has gone on over several weeks. And then at the end of the day, she said she doesn't want to do any negative advertising. So we're going to change our program down there, and we're going to tell her that we're going to go to a one-to-one mail program that we do with certain of our people. Like one guy that comes to mind is Crespo, who's a real pain in the ass.
Right.
And so we just say to Crespo, look, we'll do one-for-one mail. And we're going to tell Natalie that it's going to be one-for-one mail. And today she's got 3 staffers. We're going to pull 2 out and send them to Metro East. And so my purpose in calling you is that you and Bradley are involved in some fundraising.
Yes.
We'll just take her off the list.
So here you can kind of pick up on Madigan playing the role of the chair of the Democratic Party of Illinois, talking about a race. And again, this call was from September 2nd of 2018, ahead of an election where Natalie Phelps Finney, a Democrat, was running against a Republican in a Southern Illinois district. And she didn't want to go negative, but apparently Madigan wanted to go negative and decided to shift funds away from that district.
All right.
Okay.
Is there anything I can do there?
No, just shut down the fundraising, because we're going to deliver the message. Craig is going to tell her that we're going to shift away from the spending plan that had been put in place, and we're going to go to 1-to-1. And we're going to pull 2 staffers out of it. We're reclassifying the district.
Right. I gathered that.
So they're reclassifying the district, which is, again, an interesting kind of revelation of how Madigan was in control of the Democratic Party of Illinois while also being the House Speaker. Shows that nexus of power he had to be able to shift money around. Another recording here, this one is from November 6th, 2018, conversation between McLean and Madigan.
Oh, it's been crazy around here.
Is it? Okay. So when do you want me to call Lang and just lower the boom on him?
I think
because he's not getting it.
Oh.
I mean, he understands it, but he doesn't like hearing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sooner rather than later.
Okay. I'll do it.
So again,
now, Mike.
Clearly, there's a lot of different, things going on in these phone calls and different assignments they're discussing, but it just shows some of the, in a way, inner workings of Madigan's operatives and how he sends messages through share that message with their targets. Here's another conversation from November 8th of 2018 between Madigan and McLean, the two very busy on the phones with each other.
He said he's talking to 2 people about the dark side. I know one of them, Nancy Kimby, of course. I don't know the other one, and I don't even know if it's really true. He may have just said 2. And he asked, do you think the speaker would use me? I mean, like, can I be Mike McLean too? And I said, look, he'll use you. I mean, the speaker doesn't use me for everything. And he uses Will for certain things, Peter for certain things, and so don't think that I'm exclusive, because I'm not. But no, he'll ask you when he thinks it's appropriate and be helpful. He'll ask you.
Yeah, sure.
And this was a conversation that McLean was having with Madigan about Lou Lang and trying to get Lou Lang to step down because there was harassment allegations that were surfacing against Lang, and Lang had told McLean, hey, can the speaker get me some work as a lobbyist, for instance?
The speaker doesn't really call people and say, please hire Mike McLean or please hire Will Cousineau. He's stayed away from that for years. But do I think that he'll alert me to keep an eye out for you? Yeah, I think he'll do that.
Sure. Yep.
So again, something that is pretty revealing in what exactly federal prosecutors are getting at here. And then this last clip, again, revealing 2019, he makes it clear that these individuals associated with what Fed prosecutors call Madigan Enterprise, it's to benefit Madigan.
There's a part of me that struggles with seeing, like, sometimes I shill for my friends rather than what's in the best interest of the speaker.
Yeah, and you're going to fight that your whole life. And I finally came to peace with that maybe 20 years ago when I convinced myself that my client is the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
My client is not ComEd. My client is not CBOE. My client is not Walgreens. My client is the speaker. And once you come at, not you, but once a lobbyist comes to peace that that's the client, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It is a lot easier.
No, I know.
I think if you got
to... just fascinating. We'll likely hear a lot more of these undercover recordings throughout the trial with the Trial continuing today, more witness testimony. Current state rep Bob Rita expected to continue on the stand today, carried over from last week. So we'll see what other tapes the federal prosecutors release in this case. It is Illinois in Focus Day. I do seem to be having some dropouts with the live stream. Just a reminder, you can get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and get that podcast uninterrupted. Also, remember that we do record this program live to tape, so if you do get interrupted with the live stream, you'll be able to catch the segments without any interruption. Just subscribe to America's Talking Network. Make that happen. Sequestration projects and the possible pipelines that there could be, and what exactly is happening in that space where you've got tax dollars involved to the tunes of billions and billions. Welcome in Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's get to this congressional briefing that a variety of groups gave last week, talking to members of Congress about the need for more regulation and oversight of carbon sequestration projects, tax credits, and more, including public safety concerns. So we're going to hear from a variety of voices that were part of this congressional testimony and some slides that they shared. One person in particular, Pam Richards with Eco Justice Collaborative out of Champaign, Illinois, really focused in on ADM and the leaks that ADM has had at their plant in Decatur. It's considered one of the first carbon sequestration plants and has been doing so for years. But earlier this year, a leak was announced, and then a subsequent leak was announced. And then they ultimately stopped their operations there, pumping carbon dioxide in liquid form deep into the ground. It's carbon capture, and then you've got utilization and geologic storage deep underground, where they pump all this down into a CO2 reservoir underneath certain layers of rock. And, some of the plans also include having pipelines traverse multiple states. There was multiple efforts to do that here in Illinois, but ultimately Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a law that puts a moratorium on these carbon pipelines. But they're still concerned because ADM is sequestering and storing carbon dioxide under the ground that they get from their own plants, and there were a couple of leaks. Well, Pam Richard with Eco Justice Collaborative talked about really what ADM knew and when they knew it, and why wasn't the Environmental Protection Agency more stern in their actions against ADM. Here's, again, some of the congressional staffer hearing they had, more of a presentation to congressional staffers.
ADM has voluntarily paused injection, but I do not understand why the EPA didn't ask them to do it. It was clearly, what we experienced with formation fluid and the well failure was clearly a violation of their permit.
So she's curious why the EPA didn't withheld information during key negotiations this year that there was a leak when they were talking with the city of Decatur about carbon sequestration, and also when they were talking with members of the State House.
Governor Pritzker signed the bill at Decatur's CCS Research and Development Center on July 18th, like a half a mile away from the well that was leaking. Again, ADM knew their monitoring well had failed. They knew they had failed the EPA inspections, but they said nothing. So I think these actions clearly show lack of transparency to the public and to the state. And those decisions could have changed had information been shared. Maybe we would have decided to hold off passing that regulatory bill until we had answers to these questions. Maybe Decatur City Council would have said, "I'm going to sign those easements with you."
So clearly questions about a lack of transparency. And Richard Cooperitz with AccuFacts, he's talked about how he's been involved in pipeline safety for 20 plus years and looking at pipeline failures. He had a lot of concerns about pipelines and just the sequestration and
public to ensure transparency and appropriate solutions are developed and approached. And transparency is a key A company doing the right thing should have no problem telling you and showing you how he's doing the right things.
So clearly that transparency issue problematic, but it's also the taxpayer issue here. You have the members of various groups of the U.S. government looking at tax numbers. In particular, you had the Office of Congressional Research put out a report in August of 2023 documenting the taxpayer cost of these programs. They say in December 2022, the Joint Committee on Taxation estimated Section 45Q associated tax expenditures would be less than $50 million per year in 2022 through 2026, or about $0.2 billion over the 2022 to 26 5-year period. But it also says the Department of Treasury's March 2022 tax expenditures estimates that it's going to be $2.4 billion for the 2022 to 2026 5-year period and $30.3 billion from 2022 to 2032, suggesting an expected increase in tax credit claims in later years. So clearly, some big concern. Paul Blackburn with Bold Alliance spelled out some of the problems they have with the language of the tax credits.
If you look at these regulations, they talk all about injection wells. They don't talk about standards for monitoring wells. I assume the monitoring wells are held to the same standards, but again, that's not required by the regulation. And if the standards are not such that they keep it, the storage is not secure, then the 45Q tax credit is based on inadequate security standards for the CO2 that's going into the ground.
So if it's leaking, then they shouldn't be able to tap into those tax credits, again, to the tune of $30 billion over 10 years between 2022 and 2032. So is that type of oversight happening? Is Congress looking into this? Is the IRS looking into this? Should the Inspector General be looking into this? Jim Walsh, he's with Food and Water Watch. He had these closing remarks during that congressional briefing.
It really highlights the fact that the carbon capture industry, throughout IRS and other parts of the government as well, I'm going to thank all of our speakers for these powerful, enlightening presentations. It's clear we need EPA to stop injections of CO2 into existing wells, stop permitting new wells, and stop approval of new primacy applications until we better understand the extent and cause of these leaks, and we have proper regulatory regime in place to protect the public, our drinking water supplies, and what really seem to be systemic leaks of CO2 injection wells. We need congressional action from all the congressional staff and your bosses on the call today to ensure EPA is doing more to improve monitoring, oversight, and transparency of injection wells in the country, and ensure that IRS is properly monitoring billions of dollars in tax credits that the industry is working to exploit. And this really raises serious questions about whether the Inspector General should look into numerous questions raised by these leaks, such as why the public was not notified of leaks in Illinois, what the EPA knew when and why it took so long for EPA to issue a notice of violation, what other leaks EPA knows about but they're not sharing with the public, and what leaks may exist that operators are not sharing with the public or EPA. They should also work to understand the full extent of leaking wells and the risk of leaks or potential leaks would have on drinking water and public safety. And thank you all for being here today.
So again, a lot of concerns laid out there and calls for more actual oversight, not just by Congress, but by the IRS, the EPA, and possibly even the Inspector General. We'll be watching that space closely as, of course, ADM putting out a statement to me on Friday talking about what they knew and when. They said that the company plays a critical role in the evolution of this technology. They say we routinely report to the US EPA the intermittent monitoring issues, including the discovery of corrosion at the tubing and action to plug the well in late 2023, according to our permit. The independent test results received in late 2024, July, confirmed CO2 migration of the Iron Gate Galesville were also promptly reported to the US EPA. They contend that the leaks pose no threat to surface or groundwater, nor to public health. I don't know if that's going to ease the concerns that people raised during that congressional briefing. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. We'll be watching this space closely. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily. no surprise, Chicago has some financial issues, and Illinois taxpayers elsewhere frustrated that they've sent their dollars to Chicago. But it looks like Chicago's trying to do some financial types of things to move some money around, to pay off some older debts in hopes that they save taxpayers money. This came up during the Chicago City Council meeting last week. Definitely want to review this because we're talking about $1.5 billion. And that's something that did ultimately advance, where they're going to refinance things to pay off some debt, but there was some pushback from members of the city council. First up, though, of course, last week we reviewed the conversations that people had addressing the council and concerns they had about the politics. In particular, groups of black citizens saying that they're going to go red and turn Chicago red. But all of that, of course, took some spotlight. Let's talk about the finances. Pat Dowell, Chicago alderwoman, she had a last-minute ordinance that they wanted to bring forward to approve on Tuesday last week.
Concerning the refunding of general obligation sales tax securitization corporation bond, Series 2024, which was deferred and published on October 9th, 2024. I move for passage of this item by a roll call vote. I reserve the right to close if anyone wishes to speak to this item.
Very well, thank you. There were people who spoke to the item, in particular, Councilman right administration, and saying that this is not necessarily the best route to go to save taxpayers money.
Our concerns are and were and are, that avenues are being created so that money can be used for operating expenses and for the continuation of living beyond our means. We have seen where even just today, $20 million was refunded back to the city of Chicago in the Budget Committee's report to try to fill this hole that we have for this year because of expenses related to the migrant asylum seekers. Hearing also that that's probably the last we're going to see from the state or the federal government in terms of reimbursements. Where else are we going to find these reimbursements? Well, I can tell you that, as my colleagues know, and as we discussed in committee, these savings have already been actualized and written into the budget that we have yet to see. We haven't said yes, but the administration is already counting on that yes to be approved and that yes to continue and for those savings to be there. And I think it's important to recognize, colleagues, that the market, even from 1 month to the next, has already changed against us.
So clearly Lopez worried that all this refinancing ordinance would do is just allow the city to continue spending at the levels they're spending, especially considering the amount of money, the tens of millions of dollars the city's spending on non-citizen migrants, and how that money seems to be drying up at the federal level. He shared more of his concerns during Tuesday's Chicago City Council meeting.
We refuse to start living within our means, to start asking those questions about what we can do to claw back money for the taxpayers, what we can do to hold banks accountable, to pay their fair share, as the saying goes, to Chicagoans, to make those, to live in under our own means. But those aren't the discussions we are having. That's not even the discussions that people want to have with us. Because we'll just be gaslighted, we'll be accused of being racist, we'll be accused of not wanting to invest in communities, even though what we're really talking about is not saddling them with debt for the next generation.
So again, the refinancing issue, Lopez says, is just going to continue debt further down the line. Pat Dowell responding to some of that.
It's $90 million in savings this year, 2024, and another $35 million in savings in 2025. So for everyone who asks, what is Chicago doing to put its fiscal house in order? Here you go.
So is it really going to put the fiscal house in order? And to the issue of rates, will the rates really be favorable to the city of Chicago? That was a question that was asked of the administration after the city council meeting. Here's how the question went.
The state comptroller is not a fan of the $1.5 billion refi and some other municipal will be realized. Is there a chance that those numbers are not going to be accurate once you go to market with this borrowing? with the refi.
So again, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson pulls up Jill Jaworski, is the budget expert within the administration. She said, listen, this is going to work out. It's going to save them money.
Whenever you go to market, you don't know what the rates are going to be. If we knew what the rates were going to be, well, I wouldn't be standing here at this podium to be. But interest rates now are significantly lower than they were when those bonds were issued. So we know if we do a refinancing deal, we're going to save money. And we've been pretty conservative in our estimates of what we think they're going to be. Last year, we were conservative. We estimated about $70 million would come out of this transaction. Now we're estimating about $90 million will. But truly, we think it's going to be significantly more. Now, if in the next month or so, interest rates spike up and we can't get those savings, we'll defer during the transaction. I mean, we're not selling bonds to sell bonds. We're doing this transaction solely to save money, and that is our goal. And if the savings are not sufficient, we'll delay and wait for another time when rates are better. But right now, we're very comfortable in the projections that we've given that we will realize those savings.
So you've got the administration saying that, they don't know the rates in the future, but they proclaim that this is going to bring about some savings. I guess we'll wait and see if those savings are really going to lead to taxpayers not being on the hook for these types of costs moving forward, or if they're going to continue to see fiscal cliffs and hundreds of millions of dollars in deficits with no... All right, to those still with us in the live feed, greatly appreciate your patience with some hiccups here. I'll have to do some engineering again and see what's going on here. I'm as frustrated as you are, just put it that way. But again, get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts, uninterrupted, Illinois in Focus. Just search any podcast server. Get the clips of the show on video with America's Talking Network, and get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. Have yourselves a great Monday. We'll be back at it tomorrow here with Illinois in Focus Daily.